the fight over effective lifts to improve the vertical jump? Is it the athlete or is it the training and the lifts? We're gonna settle that technical coordination debate and whether or not weightlifting derivatives help improve the vertical jump. And we're gonna start right off the bat. Let's start with that explosive athlete. Let's try to define what is needed, okay? To be explosive, we need to look at high rate of force development, okay? If we're looking at impulse, we're looking at peak velocity. So how quickly can an athlete move their body as the implement? Okay, how quickly can they move? What is the peak movement pattern or the peak speed that they're moving, right? What's the average speed that they're moving at? And what is their rate of force development? So how quickly is this individual able to go from a standard standing position to then moving as rapidly as possible? Those are the key components behind being explosive. Rate of force development, peak velocity, and average velocity. So this means the athlete has to have the ability to coordinate as rapidly as possible and maintain stability to continue to apply a large amount of force in a short period of time. Impulse, right? So if they can accelerate the implement or body by executing rapid contraction for propulsion, now it's extremely likely they're gonna jump higher. And that takes us into this next question. Are there athletes that have potentially never done a weightlifting movement and they still jump high? 100%. That happens. I think as a strength and conditioning coach, we need to understand there's gonna be a lot of different samples that can potentially prove you wrong. But when we're involved with strength and conditioning, we have to think about that normal person player, okay, the NPP. So if we think about the normal person, if they come in, and this is just the average person, right? The utmost average person that you can think of, we have to think about what is best for that individual. How can we get that individual to go from normal to elite? And that takes us into this specific paper, which is going to be Olympic weightlifting training improves vertical jump height in sports people, a systematic review in meta-analysis. Meta-analysis, okay, this is taking different studies and it's looking at a large amount of participants and what happens when they do weightlifting derivatives. So we're gonna break this paper down as quickly as possible, and then we're gonna go through a couple different examples to help you guys drastically improve that vertical jump. So the systematic review was conducted to evaluate the effect of Olympic weightlifting on vertical jump. Pretty simple, right? And what they ended up looking at was 5 different electronic databases, and they had to have at least one weightlifting exercise with an intervention lasting more than 6 weeks. They had a comparison group for control. So they were looking at different studies and then saying, okay, you have to follow this checklist. They ended up having 6 different papers. Okay, so 6 different studies here were included that had over 230 participants. Okay, that's pretty freaking good. With resistance training experience, anywhere from 19 and a half to 22, 23 years old or below. So there was 3 studies that compared weightlifting versus a control, and then 4 studies compared weightlifting versus traditional resistance-based training. Another 3 studies compared weightlifting versus plyometric training. So the meta-analysis indicated weightlifting improved vertical jump height by 7.7% compared to control and by 5.1% compared to traditional resistance-based training. A change in vertical jump height was not different for weightlifting versus plyometric training. So all the weightlifting diehards out there, myself included, can recognize that if you're doing weightlifting movements versus just doing plyometric training, you're gonna get about the equal result. So the conclusion here is that weightlifting is an effective training method to improve vertical jump height, right? Okay, so that's pretty standard. We've got that good understanding. Great meta-analysis here from Hackett and Davies. Now, what technical coordination movements or exercises that make these athletes explosive? Okay, so if we look at someone like Jaime Perez, she just threw 73 meters, the longest throw since 1988. Okay, she's got a 29-inch vertical. She has a massive snatch, a massive high hang power snatch. She's hit over 103 kilos. So that leads to rate of force development and high peak velocity. She understands how to rapidly coordinate her body as fast as possible. Josh Saracen, he's thrown 66 meters. He's got a 41-inch vertical. He can power clean over 175 kilos. He's full clean 190 kilos. He understands how to move that rapidly. Then we look at someone like Sam Mattis. He weighs 270 pounds. He's got a 37-inch vertical. He's clean 200 kilos in a full clean. Okay, so someone like Sam, he's clean 200 kilos in a full clean. He's also behind the neck jerk 500 pounds. These are 2 technical coordination movements that you can use based off of this paper to help improve your vertical jump, especially if you're a heavier individual. Jacob Horse has jumped over 41 inches, and when he was younger, he jumped 44 inches when he was about 17 because of his body weight to strength ratio, right? That's the big aspect here, is that All of these athletes, even the heavier ones, have a very, very high body weight to strength ratio, but I think it should be termed body weight to impulse ratio. They have very high force production in a short period of time relative to their body weight. That's the key component. It's not body weight to strength, it's body weight to impulse. Okay, so Jake could snatch 145 kilos and jump 41 inches, and honestly, this is a weird one, but he's jumped up our steps in 2 jumps, which is absolutely insane, and we're still trying to figure out how high that would be. Haley Reichert has jumped 27 inches, and she's done a lot of hurdle hops, she's done a lot of clean and jerks. She's a world bronze medalist. That has helped her lead to that 27-inch vertical jump for a female, which is extraordinarily high. Now, you look at someone like Alex Rose on the other end. Alex Rose has power snatched over 135 kilos, close to his body weight. He weighs 320 pounds. He can still dunk basketballs, right? He's older. He's very, very heavy, very, very explosive. One of the greatest discus throwers in the history of the sport, and that goes back to his ability to recruit a large amount of motor units in a short period of time. So we're looking at power snatch, clean and jerk, behind the neck jerk, hang power snatches, okay? Hang snatches, 1-box snatch, and full cleans. Okay, those are a couple different factors. Now we can look at someone like Kyla Redding. She's got a huge vertical jump. She's one of our athletes on site who plays softball. Huge vertical jump. She can full clean for multiple reps, 70 kilos, and she's a softball player, hits bombs consistently, okay? The ability there comes back to her strength and her impulse capability. Okay, so we can use different variations, different technical coordination movements, and we can use these movements in conjunction with plyometrics. So if we have someone like Kyla, she can do hurdle hop series very easily, landing in a short counter movement position and get out of those positions very rapidly. That also helps her when she's actually batting. We know that weightlifting movements improve vertical jump. We know that plyometrics improve vertical jump. The big thing now is why? Okay, what do the lifts actually do? First, I like to think about accommodating resistance. Okay, think about West Side and doing bands and chains and things like that. When we're doing accommodating resistance, we're focused on acceleration and stability. How stable can we be with the chains? How stable can we be with the bands? How well can we accelerate through the entire force curve? Let's pretend I was just showing you a bench press. In this case, what happens when you're doing a technical coordination movement, like a snatch, behind the neck jerk, hang snatch, whatever, is that we're looking at acceleration through the entire force curve. We're learning how to apply a massive amount of force in a short period of time. We're mastering impulse. Mastering impulse is key for sports performance. The next thing, the pattern, the entire pattern is based off control and acceleration. Rate coding for athletes is then done at higher speeds and done with high rate of force development, leading to high peak velocity. Okay, so when we're rate coding, think about if we're playing a video game, we're smashing the button as quickly as possible. That's essentially what's happening with rate coding with our nervous system, and we're firing and contracting a muscle as quickly as possible. Okay, so if we master high speed movements like a behind the neck jerk, and we also are mastering our plyometrics, in turn, our body starts to master the skill of rate coding at high speeds. That then leads to greater rate of force development, greater peak velocity, greater average velocity, greater vertical jump. Velocity-based training measurements are another way that we can understand how quickly technical coordination movements impact performance. So if we look at like a muscle snatch or a power snatch, we've seen someone like world record holder in the shot put, Ryan Krauser, snatch 145 kilos at 2.7 meters per second. That's insane. So if you have a sport like football, okay, that you have to move heavyweight fast where you're applying force into an opponent, if you can snatch more at higher speeds, like 2.7 meters per second, or if you can muscle snatch at a high speed, now that transfers into your opponent when you're trying to, let's say you're involved with contact off the line or involved with a wrestler potentially even. Okay, so that's some way that we can think about this. And then finally, the lifts. The other big aspect here is that the actual technical coordination lifts, they require an organization of force application from the correspondence of the muscular system. Okay, so the big aspect here is when the athlete learns and takes on these instructions, now these movement patterns that they're learning, so the exercises that they're learning, the coach now can understand how that athlete responds. So then the coach can improve their technical coaching when they're teaching them how to do a vertical jump. And I'm going to use a case here. We've got an 8th grade kid, RJ Cruz, who's a young D tackle, absolute savage. I was constantly teaching him how to do these cleans, do these cleans, do these cleans. And then all of a sudden one day he comes in and he PRs his clean by 20 kilos. Well, what did you do? I watched 2 hours of YouTube videos on how to clean. So what was happening is I was giving him tactile cues. I was giving him verbal cues. I was trying even to show RJ visually how to do these different movements, but he needed to have time watching YouTube, like on our channel, and watching the technique to then apply it himself. So now I know RJ responds really well to video learning. Okay, so that's some interesting aspects there. So is there a correlation with bigger technical coordination movements? Obviously, in this case, there's going to be, okay? I think we still need to use plyometrics effectively. Another good example is we had a pro day athlete this year, Taiji Leach. He tested out 28 inches at the beginning of our pro day camp, okay? 72 days later, at his pro day, he jumped 34.5 inches. We were doing 2-box snatches and clean pulls. So relative to body weight, we've got to see that high expression of impulse, okay? So if the ratio of body weight to impulse is high, now we jump higher. Okay, vertical jump is used as a very good basis or a very good test to see how athletic or see how well someone will do in the sporting realm. Is there a point where it seems to back off? Okay, I think typically, this is a good question, where if we lift too heavy in the snatch or too heavy in the clean, is there a point of diminishing returns? Absolutely 100%. I think it's important with the snatch, if we look at like 1.2 times body weight is a safe place that we can say like, all right, we're good. 1.1 times body weight snatch for women, we're good. Okay, 1.4 times body weight for women, 1.6 times body weight for men in the clean, that's where we're good. Okay, we can get to those points. Those are really good aspects or really good baselines to work towards over a very long period of time. Okay, so in conclusion, is it the athlete or is it the lift? Was it Jaime, Josh, Haley, Jake, Sam, all of those different athletes that we named that have huge vertical jumps? Was it the athlete or was it the lifts? It's gonna be a combination of both. Okay, these are good athletes. They're also in a good training system. They're using our training program, so they learn how to jump consistently, and they're also learning how to apply a large amount of force in a short period of time by using technical coordination movements. They also have a genetic gift, and I think that work ethic combined with their system pays off big time dividends. Okay, so we've got to understand that. But when it comes back to that normal person player, okay, the normal person is going to have a huge reaction with the vertical jump when they start to do these weightlifting movement patterns. Okay, I think that's a really, really important concept there. If we compared it to those normal people not doing them, that's a really big concept. And then finally, elite athletes will see a big response right away, but then once they get to a certain point, they'll see a point of diminishing return. So I think it's important that when we take this paper and we apply it as strength coaches, we have to look through that lens of developing the most normal athlete possible. That's the lens that every strength and conditioning coach needs to work towards to optimize their overall programming. That's exactly what we did inside Peak Strength. I built this entire app. The entire strength training app is built around how can we get a normal athlete to go to their pro day, to have a 6-inch PR over 72 days of training. That's exactly what we've done inside of Peak Strength. So if you guys want to improve your overall vertical jump and force output in a short period of time, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.